What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on Pure Panorama. As you can see, we're starting the day by getting the truck into neutral. We got the front wheel chalked with a 4x4 here on the ground, and we're just gonna jump right into this thing. We're gonna get all of our crap back out, which I have laying all on the back seat and floor of the truck, the 2001 24 Valve Cummins. For anyone who's new, doesn't know, probably do know, which is probably why you're here at the channel, to see what goes on with this Cummins truck behind me. So just a quick recap, we will run through what I did last night and why I'm doing this. So about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I took out and replaced the far back U-joint on the drive shaft of my 2001 24 Valve Cummins, the U-joint that meets up to your rear differential yoke. Well, I think that when we put that new one in, we didn't have it quite seated or adjusted in there properly because it has a little too much tension and pressure on it. Now the issue that I'm experiencing is, so when we put the truck into reverse and we're backing up, we're getting a squeaking noise from the rear end of the truck. Now I was equating that squeaking noise to one of two things. It was either that rear U-joint that I just was speaking about, or it was an issue with the rear drum brakes, because I do have a little something going on with the brake pedal and the braking system on the truck, and we are going to be diving into some brake stuff and replacing some parts with the brake system here in the near future to hopefully clear all that up. I'm talking like a hydro boost. I already have a master cylinder laying on the back seat, and probably going to end up having to do pads and new shoes and stuff again, just to make sure everything is all new and fresh, even though that stuff has already been replaced. Because if we're going the distance to do the hydro boost in the new master cylinder and just trying to freshen up the whole brake system, we might as well make sure that everything is freshened up and we're good to go, and hopefully don't have to look at or touch it again for quite a while. But I don't think 100% that it is anything to do with the braking system as to why I'm getting that noise when we're in reverse and hearing that squeak. Now also, just yesterday, it started to do something when we were driving and everything too, and it was making a god-awful noise, almost as if something was a vibration-y rattle type of thing, or if something was sticking or stuck and not able to move freely and just kind of scratching, clicking, squeaking type of deal. Quick little weather report here in New York. We finally have spring weather, and I wouldn't even say spring weather. We basically went from getting 2 inches of snow on Monday, April 30th, to straight summer weather here on May 2nd. All right, now the last video I ended off with kind of telling you that I had this disassembled and ready to go to hopefully press this thing out and get the new one in, but I was running out of daylight, so I couldn't really go too in depth because the camera wouldn't pick it up under here. But now that we are fresh in the morning, we have good daylight, so we can see what's going on. Now if I show you these caps right here, you can see that these move nice and freely as they should, and same with this upper one. That's how it should work. Now if these caps were in here and I held this drive shaft and just kind of tapped the U-joint, it would move more or less under its own power or under the weight of itself. But if I go and now try and twist this thing, you can see I have to put some good pressure on it, and it just doesn't move all that freely. It's sticking and binding up, and that is not what we want. So I think that the issue is in these two caps here that are pressed into the drive shaft, and that's hopefully what we're going to take care of. And to do that magic pressing, I did in fact buy a ball joint kit. I didn't get the full master kit right now. I did just get your basic ball joint press and your basic receiving cups and stuff. So this is what we're going to use, and obviously another main reason that we bought this was to hopefully be able to press the ball joints out of the truck. For anybody who wants to know, that ball joint press kit there that I ordered and got in the mail yesterday is from Orion Motor Tech, and I just bought it right off Amazon. I think it was like 52 or 53 bucks. So this tailpiece of the shaft can only go back into the front shaft in one way. So you can see the splines all the way around and how they're evenly spaced, except for this one spot right here where the gap is bigger. That's a bigger keyway area for it to mate up with that front portion of the shaft. I did put the witness marks on just to help me as far as lining it up and making it easier. Hopefully, you know, it'll slip in there a little easier and I don't have to try and get up in there and look and match it up. I can just match up the white marks, and I know that that's the way that it needs to go instead of looking at the splines. But it should only go in one way. This is how your truck should be too, and if it's not going in for whatever reason, then it's probably misaligned. And when we do put it back in, we will apply just a little bit of grease up underneath here to the actual spline part of this. Now that is painted so that hopefully it doesn't corrode and jam things up and get them stuck. So mine did separate and come off fairly easily, but like I said, we will just apply a little small amount of grease to help it slip back up in there nicely, and we should be good to go. So really quick, I just want to show you what a U-joint does and the purpose of it with this here adapter for a 3/8 drive socket or ratchet. So a U-joint is set up basically just like this swivel extension is, and what it does is it pivots in both directions, as you can see like this does, and it allows for any travel in the drive shaft to be absorbed, and just for the drive shaft to pivot and move when you're driving down the road and hitting bumps. So that's the importance that a U-joint plays in your drive line, is basically what this does for you when you're trying to wrench on your truck or your dirt bike or whatever, and you put this on your ratchet so that you can reach into a hard to reach area and swivel up in a different direction so that you can try and break a nut or a bolt free. The U-joints are doing the same thing with your drive shaft. So every time your truck goes over a bump or the body or frame kind of twists and rolls or rocks, that U-joint is pivoting and allowing your drive shaft to remain straight and still function and keeping everything in check. So that's it. U-joints, basically you can think of them just like these swivel extensions for your ratchets and sockets, and that's basically what they do and the purpose that they serve, and that's why they are important on your truck. So to get this U-joint out of the drive shaft, I did end up having to go ahead and hit it with a little bit of heat here with the torch. Now all I did was heat right here around this outer part of the drive shaft, and basically what it did was just free up your cap just like anything else, and I was able to just grab it with these vice grips very lightly and go ahead and pull it out. But before, it was so stuck in there already that I couldn't get a hold of it to pull it out, so we did have to use a little bit of heat. Once we got the one side out, the other one was freed up enough to where I could push it back through and pluck that cap and pull the whole thing out. So we got it all in place. We're gonna go ahead and just start torquing it down a little bit to press this one cap on, and then we'll flip it. We'll start to press the other cap on, then we can get it all lined up to put our retaining clips in. We only need 2 retaining clips on this one because the other caps are held in by the straps on the rear yoke. So you're gonna just get yourself some needle nose pliers like this, and you're gonna go ahead, give it a squeeze, just pinch it together, and then seat it right down in the hole. And you'll see there's a groove in there too, so you want to make sure it's down in the groove. Always go around and tap it in with a screwdriver afterwards to make sure it's fully seated, and then you can push this one back through so you can seat the other clip on the other side. So just like that, we got that retaining clip in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and push the U-joint over to this one and then get this one in here seated on the opposite side, and make sure that we can still spin and move this easily. See how easy that is compared to the old one that we took out? Now when you're tapping this over and putting some pressure on this, after you got your first clip seated, you don't wanna go balls to the walls and press too much. You just want to get it enough to push it over so you can expose the groove in the other side of the drive shaft and seat your next retaining clip. But now that we got both of those clips seated in there, look at how hard this thing is to move. It doesn't move quite as easy as it did before. I really got to put some pressure on that thing. So that's where we have to get this to not be so tight. We're not worried about these caps because when we torque down our straps to the rear yoke, these will remain decent, but there's so much pressure and tension on the ends of these ones right now that we have to get them aligned just perfectly so that they will not have this tension on the U-joint and it can function properly, because this is where our last one, I'm pretty sure, went bad. We are gonna do this U-joint right now too, as long as we got this shaft out, because I discovered this. Look at that. See how that's bound up and basically busted and popping in that one spot to try and move. I have a feeling that might be contributing to our horrific noise that we're experiencing. So we got everything separated here, as you can see, and I discovered that this middle U-joint was in fact bad. So when I had my truck down to the shop on Friday the 13th and told the guy, as long as you have my truck here, throw these last two U-joints in and change the carrier bearing for me, and he said, oh, you don't need that, they're good, why, I don't want to waste your money and stuff, but then said, but you do need to do ball joints and $1,700 worth of other work. He was full of shit. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't have to do anything with the tie rods, because they definitely needed to be switched with the sway bar end lengths, and I know that those driver's side ball joints were starting to go bad, but I don't think they're as bad as he said they are. But we are gonna take care of them here pretty soon. As you know, I already have the parts, but he was just trying to get a bigger payday out of me rather than having to do the U-joints, which would have took him probably an hour and a half to do all that. It's taken me longer, obviously, because I don't have the setup that he does to do it. But either way, that needed to get done, and he said that it didn't. So he was full of crap and was trying to get a bigger payday out of me. But here we are fixing what I requested him to fix when we had the truck down there. So it just goes to show, if you want something done and you want it done right, you got to do it yourself type of deal. Or it just goes to show that a lot of garages and shops out there just can't be trusted, man. And I'll show you how bad this U-joint was that he said was perfectly fine. Do you see that right there? Look at those needle bearings, dry as can be. I've already packed grease in this just last week, and clearly it was so messed up that the grease didn't even go into the cap. The needle bearings are split in half and riding around up there in the tip of the cap, and that's what was binding us up and locking. I would be willing to bet that our rear end noise that I was hearing was coming right from here. These two caps right here were good, but this cap, same deal. There's no needle bearings left in this. Completely gone, just ground to dust. That guy is an idiot. He was probably just envying me because he drives a power joke and I got the old Cummins here, and he knows that these old farm tractors are just better trucks. So there you have it, guys. We got the two new U-joints in the rear portion of the drive shaft, and we are getting ready to scoot it under the truck and get underneath there to stick it back in where it goes and hook everything back up. And then we'll take this girl for a test drive and see if our noise is gone and how she rides. But I have a feeling we're gonna be good. We are hooked back up and ready to roll, so we're gonna go give this a quick little test drive, see how she feels. We got our 4 bolts here that hold the straps down on these caps of the U-joint, torqued down to 22 foot-pounds with some blue thread locker on them. And we got our new joint right here as well. I'm gonna go and squirt a little bit more grease in each one of these just to make sure that they are lubed up nicely. And then I think you're on the list next there, buddy. Yeah, we're gonna drop this shaft back down here real soon, get this old carrier bearing down out of here, and also take care of that joint so that everything through here is fresh and we don't have to worry about it. And then we're back up there to the front end working on that to finish that off. Like I've already mentioned, we need to do the U-joints in the axle shafts and the upper and lower ball joints, and while we're in there taking care of it, we get everything separated and things seem to be going smoothly and we're able to get that stuff done. We're also just going to do new wheel hub assemblies with new wheel bearings and just make sure that all the front end is completely new, fresh, and ready to roll. And this little ball joint kit worked fine for the U-joints. I guess the real test will come when we have to do the ball joints themselves. That is all she wrote for this video. It seems like we have the problem taken care of. That one U-joint definitely needed to get swapped, and it's done. So we're put back together, we're ready to hit the road. But for now, I am gonna sign out. So I will see you guys in the next video. Hit that like button on your way out, and if you're stopping in for the first time, just subscribe. Just do it. See ya. I just wanna